So let's begin with the updates. What we are picking up, India's message that war is not the path to peace. That seems to have resonated at the UN General Assembly debate on Ukraine, even as New Delhi has reaffirmed its unwavering stance that the ongoing conflict cannot be resolved through military means. At the UNGA debate on the situation in temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, India's permanent representative ambassador P. Harish has stated that India remains deeply concerned about the continuing hostilities and the growing humanitarian crisis, where he stressed that the loss of innocent lives is not acceptable and no lasting solution can emerge from the battlefield.
India continues to remain concerned over the situation in Ukraine. We maintain that the loss of innocent lives is unacceptable and no solution can be found on the battlefield. India has consistently advocated that the path of dialogue and diplomacy is the only way forward to end the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, no matter how insurmountable such a course may appear. The wholehearted participation and commitment of all stakeholders are critical for lasting peace. Mr. President, India welcomes recent positive developments in this direction.
Well, Srinjoy is connected with us. Good morning, Srinjoy. This is, of course, coming in from a message that the Prime Minister has consistently maintained that this is not an era of war, where he's reiterated that India is prepared to support all credible diplomatic efforts that are aimed at bringing an early end to the hostilities.
This has been a very devastating war. It's lasted over 3.5 years. And look at the casualties. If you take Ukrainian, Russian killed, wounded, it adds up to more than 1 million. Can you imagine in the 21st century a war using modern weapons and there being a million plus casualties? Then there are civilian casualties as well, probably on both sides. So that's a lot of people. And as a result, India's position has always been very clear. There should be an immediate ceasefire, negotiations, and then anything that results from the negotiations. That's the Indian position. And as you know, very famously, Prime Minister Modi told President Putin in front of the cameras that the 21st century was not a time for war. Now, this war has lasted as long as it has. And there have been efforts. President Trump has tried, other people have tried. There appears to be no solution as yet. One only hopes this gets sorted out, because not only are Ukraine and Russia suffering, but the South countries, among others, are also facing problems. Let's not forget that the fuel prices, which has led to such a problem between America and India, are high because of the war. And that's why India is buying fuel from Russia. Also, fertilizer prices are high. And for South countries, high food grain prices, because a huge percentage of the food grains made all over the world, a huge percentage of the calories eaten by
there has been a fallout of the war that we are all witnessing, especially when it comes to dramatic shift in the geopolitical arena. But as Srinjoy is pointing out, we'll get you this development that the Prime Minister also held a very productive conversation with the European Council President as well. And this is coming at a time when External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has been holding discussions with the Ukrainian Foreign Minister, where he's also reiterated India's support for a swift resolution to conflict and explore avenues for enhancing bilateral cooperation. Whereas far as when it comes to the role that India seems to be playing, Prime Minister Modi remains in touch with both sides, the Russian President Putin, the Ukrainian President Zelensky, as well when it comes to the European leaders, underscoring India's willingness to contribute to lasting peace. Now, Srinjoy, as far as this development is also concerned, holding talks, ending the war, because as the Prime Minister has stressed enough and multiple times, this is a stand that he says India cannot be blamed for being neutral or one-sided, but India does not back war.
Undoubtedly, let's not forget that several things have happened. during the war, India has sent humanitarian aid to Ukraine, and Ukraine has been very thankful for that. Secondly, India has reached out to Russia. India has reached out to Ukraine. India has been to Moscow. Prime Minister himself has been to Moscow. He has also been to Kiev. So the point I'm making is that India has friends everywhere, and India wants to play a major role here just to ensure that this bloodshed ends and the suffering ends. And this has always been India's position. Can you imagine 1 million soldiers and others dead and wounded in 3 years of fighting? This is almost unprecedented in the 21st century. I mean, one thought that all this had been left behind after 1945. And here it's back. 1 million plus soldiers killed and wounded in Russia, if you take the armies of Russia and Ukraine combined. That's such a lot of people and such a waste. So this is what India wants to end. And India is making it very clear that India is not for this and that. India is for peace.
Yes, and despite having strained relations with the United States as well, India has welcomed the recent diplomatic engagements that happened between the global leaders, noting the summit in Alaska that happened between President Trump and President Putin, as well the efforts when it comes to by Washington to engage with the Ukrainian leadership and with the European allies, as India has stressed that such initiatives raise the hope of ending the conflict and securing a durable peace and a lasting peace. Srinjoy continues to be with us because speaking of the